least 8 years behind bars. He's scheduled to learn his fate in Ogden this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Peterson's wife and Gavin's stepmother, Nicole Scott, who also pled guilty to numerous charges in the case, including murder, is set to be sentenced on Monday. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
At the heart of this story is young Gavin Peterson. Prosecutors described his bedroom as a cell. Gavin's death sparked concerns and anger from state lawmakers and community members, all questioning how the Department of Child and Family Services could have let this happen. A few years before Gavin's death, his parents pulled him out of public school, insisting that they homeschool him instead. This prompted worries from people who worked at his school, some of whom said they had tried to get Gavin help in the past. In fact, many school employees had filed complaints outlining their concerns. That's according to the Weber School District. A cafeteria worker tried to help Gavin on several occasions.
And she really had a strong relationship with Gavin. She talked about walking him to the nurse's office one day and to the school principal. He had been, picking at his fingers. She was concerned about him digging through the trash for food. And she personally saw them call DCFS and waited all day for someone to come and interview him and meet him. But she says that no caseworker, no one ever came.
Several hearings between DCFS officials and state lawmakers have taken place since that time as officials work to figure out how Gavin fell through the cracks and how to ensure that this doesn't happen again. State Representative Christine Watkins speaking in July shortly after Gavin's death.
I'm concerned that all of the things that the teachers and the lunch ladies did to report this, that nothing happened. Why did nothing happen?
KSL TV's Garna Mejia with more.
Representative Watkins, she wants to tackle DCFS and any possible cracks or shortcomings, giving them more authority, but also holding them more accountable. In cases where child abuse is reported, what is done, who takes action, and, who's answering to that?
Representative Watkins ran a bill in the 2025 legislative general session that would have allowed DCFS to obtain warrants in specific situations when law enforcement could not intervene. That bill, House Bill 83, ultimately failed. Speaking to KSL TV, Representative Watkins said, quote, DCFS wants the right to be able to get a warrant to be able to put eyes on the child. They don't have that right now. We don't have that anywhere in the law. There are those rules in place that say parents have a right to raise their children the way they want, and the state can only step in at certain times. Further changes and discussions with DCFS are still underway. Now, as KSL News Radio's Adam Small reported earlier, Gavin's father, Scott, will be sentenced for his role in the death. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas spoke to Utah's Morning News about today's sentencing.
The state and the defense got together and decided what was really enough, what was enough of a punishment here. They had considered filing it as a murder, but that's really hard because you have to show intent to cause death and you have to show aggravating factors. What they ended up charging was a child abuse homicide, which meant that he recklessly caused the death. But importantly, in order to avoid the death penalty, he had to agree to plead to 5 felonies and have the sentence on each of them run consecutive to one another. So effectively, the time that he's going to serve will be almost as significant as a murder charge.
So who sets the sentence in this case?
In this case, it's the judge. And she took the plea some time ago, and he pled guilty to 5 felonies. One's a first degree, carries 5 to life. 3 are second degrees, carrying 1 to 15, and 1 third degree, carrying 0 to 5, with the stipulation from the defense and the prosecution that she would run all of these consecutive to one another. The state has filed a sentencing memorandum sort of encouraging her to make sure she does that. They went through all the aggravating factors to point out how awful this really was. And that sentencing memorandum is just, it's really hard to read it because it outlines just the depravity of the cruelty here.
We're going to take a quick 60-second break. When we return, we will speak with KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas live about the case and what we can expect to see during the sentencing this afternoon. Stay with us.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like frames. Because you found a classic 70s concert poster. But when you went to get it framed, you realized the frame will cost about 4 times the amount of the poster. Which is actually absurd because no one will be looking at the frame, and if they are, then you severely overestimated how cool this poster is. But then you remember by switching your home and auto to Progressive, you could save hundreds and put it towards a classic 70s concert poster in an absurdly overpriced frame. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Today, Scott Peterson will be sentenced for his role in the death of his 12-year-old son, Gavin, due to years of abuse and neglect. The judge in the case,
the fact that you're going to go to prison is a given.
Joining us live to share more insights on the sentencing hearing today is KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas. Greg, thanks for being with me.
It's nice to be with you.
So tell us about this. Is the death penalty on the table for sentencing in this case?
It's not. This is not a murder case, or certainly an aggravated murder case, which is the only crime in Utah that carries the death penalty. It's a child abuse homicide, which is still a first-degree felony, but it does not carry the potential for life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. It carries what we describe as 5 years to life in prison. And as you just played that soundbite, Maria, the judge said it's not a question of whether you're going to prison. The only question the judge is going to answer today is whether or not these 5 felonies that he pled guilty to will be run consecutive. That means back to back to back to back, or at the same time.
Which could make quite a difference in the sentence, though, and how much time he spends in prison.
Oh, yeah, it'll absolutely make a lot of difference. Because even though the other felonies are lesser, they each carry 1 to 15 years. Stacking those up could make a significant a difference in the amount of time he pleads to. And by the way, or amount of time he serves. By the way, he stipulated when he entered the plea 2 consecutive sentences in exchange for the state not pursuing what you talked about earlier, Maria, which was the death penalty.
So his wife also facing charges in this case. Has she been sentenced yet?
No, her sentencing is coming up on Monday, and she did plead guilty to a murder, but not an aggravated murder. So it's not a capital case. It doesn't include the death penalty. But her murder is a first-degree felony that carries a minimum term of 15 years to life. So it's more than what Scott's going to be pleading guilty, or what he's going to serve. But it's still, Mr. Peterson is going to serve, but not as, but not a death penalty case.
So explain why her sentence is different.
I guess the state must have determined that her culpability was greater, that her involvement in the death of this little boy was more involved and was more gruesome, I should say. But they pled her to a murder 5 to life, and 15 to life, and his is a child abuse homicide 5 to life. So the state clearly felt that her responsibility was greater. She also pled guilty to an obstruction of justice charge, so they must have been pretty upset with her for the way she handled the case.
This case has brought to light some holes in the system when it comes to how DCFS handles child abuse cases. Talk a little bit about the legal responsibility and rights of DCFS in these situations.
Yeah, it's always difficult because people make complaints to DCFS, and then something like this happens, and so we look back and say, hey, why didn't DCFS jump in? They can't always do that, and I try to be sensitive because they've got so many cases that they're going to and so many children that they're trying to take care of. But this is one that probably fell through the cracks and probably should have been handled differently because, in fact, a DCFS worker had been out to the house and, for whatever reason, didn't appreciate what was going on there because what was happening to this child, Maria, was awful, and it occurred for a long period of time, the starvation, the torture, that type of thing. You would have expected that had someone gone to the house, they would have noticed that or seen the child, even someone at the school. And I think even the bus driver commented on what was going on.
Greg, thanks so much for your insight.
You bet.
KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas. Coming up, President Trump meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney today. Tariffs bound to be the top topic of conversation. More on that and the other top political stories of the day. That's next.
Jeff Kaplan.
His Minute of News is great. It's always entertaining.
I listen to Jeff Kaplan every day.
He gives you important news and traffic and the familiar voice that helps you enjoy the ride home.
I really like Jeff's Minute of News. He's calm and he's balanced.
I really enjoy driving home and just listening to what he's got to say.
Jeff Kaplan gets me home every day.
Join the community that relies on Jeff Kaplan. He has you covered. Afternoons from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
KSL traffic brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Homegrown Home Loans. Ricky?
Emergency crews have just left the scene of a crash, a pedestrian versus an auto accident with possible injuries in Midvale, and eastbound lanes were blocked at 7200 West near the I-15 overpass, about 3rd West by the McDonald's. It also affected traffic on the main flow of I-15. The exit ramp at 7200 South proper had been blocked. All lanes are now being opened, and that crash has been is in the cleanup stages. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Summer is coming and your family wants to enjoy water in an Arctic Spa all-weather pool. Some people call them swim spas, but we call them all-weather pools because it's like a swimming pool that you can use all year long. My family has a tradition of hanging out in our all-weather pool and watching the neighborhood fireworks on New Year's Eve. You can create that family fun time right now with an Arctic Spa all-weather pool in just 2 days for installation. All the fun without the hassle of pool maintenance. Add in our automatic saltwater system to make it even more comfortable and more convenient. With 8 different models with different jet packages and options, specifically designed for Utah's hot summers and cold winters, we have the perfect all-weather pool for you, no matter your budget. Come see the Arctic Spa all-weather pools at one of our Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, or St. George, and online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Think you've seen it all? The 2025 venue is prepped. The athletes have trained. Food's on standby. The weekend and weather are clear for the event to be epic. It's the 2025 Soldier Hollow Classic Memorial Weekend, May 23rd through 26th. The greatest value for families and fun. Experience some of the best entertainment and athleticism as they test the boundary between canine and human bonds. Plus, the festival. Amazing food and merchandise, bagpipes, demonstrations, activities, and great sponsors. Presented by Purina Pro Plan. A weekend filled with value and family fun. Nestled in a redesigned Olympic venue. Soldier Hollow. 4 days of adventure, competition, animal and bird demos, plus much more. Something for everyone. The Soldier Hollow Classic Sheepdog Championship and Festival. Presented by Purina Pro Plan. Nutrition that performs. Powder River. Exclusive livestock and canine equipment sponsor. IFA Country Store. Helping to grow the things you love. Visit SoldierHollowClassic.com. SoldierHollowClassic.com.
I'm Sia and I support Humane World for Animals, formerly called the Humane Society of the United States. Together, we have created a new version of Peter Gabriel's beautiful song, Salisbury Hill, to celebrate Humane World for Animals and everything they do. Enjoy the song and join us in helping Humane World for Animals end animal cruelty.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Talk. They hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
You're listening to Midday with Maria Chaleos. A look at the top political stories of the day. Here's ABC's Sherry Preston.
Here
Here are your political insights from ABC News. Former Vice President Mike Pence is weighing in on President Trump's recent comments to NBC News, saying, "I don't know," when asked if he has to uphold the Constitution. Pence tells CNN he thinks Donald Trump meant he wasn't sure how his lawyers viewed that question and that he believes the president understands what his responsibilities and duties are. But House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says the Constitution is pretty clear.
Everyone in the United States of America has a responsibility to follow the Constitution. That includes presidents.
New York Senator Chuck Schumer blaming the administration for the mounting air traffic delays at Newark Airport.
DOJ hacked a chainsaw and fired many people at the FAA who have not been replaced.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is calling for at least a 20% reduction in the number of four-star admirals and generals serving on active duty and in the National Guard. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
In other political news, President Trump meets with Canada's Prime Minister today, their first official in-person meeting. KSL News Radio's Andy Kupp is here with a deeper look at that meeting. Andy?
Maria, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who won the election last week, meeting with President Trump in their first in-person visit. President Trump and the Prime Minister speaking in the Oval Office this morning following the visit. The President asked if he still thinks Canada should become the 51st state.
No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut, and it's also a beautiful. You know, as a real estate developer, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person. But when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, it's, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think, it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace, that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the President just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the President has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
U.S. businesses boosting their imports in recent months as they prepare for tariffs under the Trump administration. The result, says ABC's Jim Ryan, was a record-high trade deficit.
The gap between what the United States imported and what it exported in March surged 14% from February, landing at just over $140 billion. The sweeping tariffs, punctuated by the 145% duties on Chinese imports, had American companies rushing to bring in merchandise to avoid the higher costs.
ABC's Jim Ryan there. Travelers who aren't Real ID compliant by the upcoming deadline this week will still be able to fly, but should be prepared for extra scrutiny, according to the head of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem told a congressional panel that 81% of travelers already have their IDs that are compliant with Real ID requirements. She said security checkpoints will still be accepting passports and tribal identification when the deadline hits tomorrow. Those who still lack identification that complies with the Real ID law, quote, may be diverted to a different line, have an extra step. But people will still be allowed to fly. We will make sure it's as seamless as possible. For the second time in as many days, the Israeli army carrying out airstrikes in Yemen on the Houthis, a rebel group backed by Iran. Israeli fighter jets flying over 1,200 miles from their shores to hit the Houthis after a terror group fired a ballistic missile Sunday that struck Israel's main international airport, narrowly missing a crowded terminal. At least 4 were killed and dozens injured in Israel's first round of strikes late yesterday. ABC's Jordana Miller reports from Jerusalem.
The Israeli army says it has struck and fully disabled the Sana'a International Airport in Yemen's capital. The IDF targeting the Iranian-backed Houthis, accusing the rebel group of using the airport for terror activities and weapon transfers. The IDF issued evacuation orders to civilians about an hour before the strike. Several power plants and a cement factory also targeted. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
And in local political news, Utah has been ranked the best overall state in the nation for the 3rd year in a row. That's according to the latest rankings from U.S. News and World Report. State Senate President Stuart Adams commenting on the rankings saying, quote, "Being number one isn't about crossing a finish line, it's about continuing to improve. This recognition is a powerful reminder that Utah's greatest strength lies in our commitment to tomorrow," end quote. House Speaker Mike Schultz also commented, saying that Utah being named the best state in America is a reflection of the people who live here. Rounding out the top 5 states after Utah are New Hampshire, Idaho, Minnesota, and Nebraska. Maria, back to you.
Thanks, Andy. The Utah Hockey Club got a gift last night during the NHL Draft Lottery. The odds had them picking 14th, but the ping pong balls helped them jump up 10 spots. Here's the announcement and the reaction from Hockey Club General Manager Bill Armstrong.
4th overall selection belongs to the Utah Hockey Club.
Wow!
Oh, that's incredible. We're going out for dinner tonight.
The hockey club only had a 1.5% chance to move up, and they did. The NHL draft takes place near the end of June. Ahead of the announcement, we spoke with Utah Hockey Club insider Cole Bagley about what will happen next.
And over the next about 6 weeks, they'll start to determine, okay, this is the pick that we have. These are the players that are going to be, that we expect to be available, who best fits our needs right now. And then in late June, they'll go ahead and make that selection.
Cole says there are a lot of great North American players to pick from. Sorry, race fans, there won't be a Triple Crown winner in a horse racing this year. Trainer Bill Mott says Kentucky Derby winner Sovereignty will not be running in the Preakness Stakes. And in other stories we are following for you, the federal government is set to close dozens of water monitoring stations across the country, including one in Moab. The stations are run by the U.S. Geological Survey. The Moab station covers 24 square miles. It's 1:30 at midday. Hello, I'm Maria Shaleo. Some of the stories we are watching this hour. Food dyes, fluoride, and making America healthy. The busiest time of the school year is upon us in what's being called Maycember. And KSL traffic with Ricky Meese.
We do have good speeds again on the Valley freeways, and accidents have been cleared. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL's top stories in 1 minute.
I'm Michelle Franzen. Following a dangerous radar outage at Newark International Airport last week, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says they've taken steps to make air traffic safer and are working on a bipartisan plan to overhaul the air traffic control system nationwide.
We've slowed down the traffic, right? So safety is our mission, right? Efficiency is not, we love efficiency, but safety is critical for us. And so if we feel like there's issues in the airspace, we'll slow it down.
Flight Radar 24 shows nearly 900 flights have been canceled since last week's brief outage. The Supreme Court lifting a court's temporary ban on the Pentagon's plans to remove transgender personnel from the ranks while the case plays out in the lower courts. President Trump and Canada's Prime Minister met today at the White House, tariffs at the top of the agenda. Both leaders say more negotiations will be needed for a trade deal. At the Vatican, cardinals are sequestering for tomorrow's conclave when they begin voting on a new pope. This is ABC News.
KSL's top local story. One of the driest areas of Utah is losing its ability to monitor water usage and make sure that people aren't taking more than their fair share.
The U.S. Geological Service water monitoring station in Moab is set to close when its lease runs out. It's one of a couple dozen stations targeted for closure by the Trump administration. Candace Hassenjaeger, director of the Utah Division of Water Resources, says the Moab office covers 33 real-time stream gauges for a very important and dry part of the state.
And then what does that mean for water users on when they can store, when they can't? We use them a lot for drought and evaluating drought conditions.
There are 40 similar gauges around the state, which, among other things, monitors river levels and safeguards the quality of drinking water. They also make sure industry and utilities don't overdraw their allotment of water. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
Southern Utah is facing a dangerous wildfire season this year. KSL News Radio's Alexandria Bonilla reports.
The low precipitation throughout the state is increasing the risk of wildfire, especially in the south where we saw below average rain and snowfall.
We do expect southern Utah will see above normal wildfire conditions as we go through June and July, while the northern half of the state remains near normal.
Senior meteorologist at Rocky Mountain Power, Scott Jensen, says there is good news. We can expect a heavier monsoon season, and the southern end of the state should return to normal wildfire risk by the end of the summer.
Rocky Mountain Power is also investing in wildfire prevention, putting $3 billion into updated power lines with the ability to de-energize if a wildfire gets too close or if a line breaks or sparks. A late-night search warrant in Orem ends in gunfire and a suspect dead. Officials aren't saying much yet about who the suspect was or what led to that shooting. Utah County Sheriff's Office says it's still an active investigation near 8th East and 4th North in Orem. A Springdale police officer was booked in jail this week accused of pulling out his gun during a family fight. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
Looking over the probable cause statement, Britt Ballard is accused of threatening a group of family members at a Hurricane home late Sunday night, with those inside saying he grabbed his gun, pointed it at the ceiling, and then made some pretty intense threats. The documents also say all the adults were intoxicated and there were 6 kids in the house at the time.
The St. George News reports Ballard has been working as an officer for Springdale since 2008. He's currently on paid administrative leave. If you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is help available. You can call the 24/7 Utah Domestic Violence Link line at 1-800-897-LINK or 5465. Taking a look at your money at this moment, a bit of an improvement on the markets. The Dow now down by just 271 points compared to its 300-point loss earlier. It sits at 40,948. S&P 500 down by 24, and the NASDAQ at this hour is down by 89 points. Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet on the Valley freeways. No accidents there. And the auto pedestrian crash that we had in Midvale, 7200 South at the bottom of the exit ramp from I-15 has been cleared. We do have a hit and run for downtown drivers. Salt Lake City PD working on that at State Street and 1700 South. A bold new Madam Butterfly is downloading now. Reimagined through a virtual reality lens where fantasy and heartbreak collide. Experience Madam Butterfly at Capitol Theater May 3rd through 11th. Madam Butterfly. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
High today near 64 degrees with a 40% chance of showers. That chance of showers disappearing tomorrow. No chance for the next few days after that, with the high climbing to up to 84 degrees by the weekend. Right now, 53 degrees from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
One of the best ways to find out about 3-Day Kitchen and Bath is actually to hear the results for yourself. On the phone with us is Wendy in Darwin. Wendy, you got a brand new bathroom.
I do, and it's beautiful.
Are you loving it?
I am absolutely loving it.
Okay, tell me about your bathroom.
It went from a dark room that felt like an absolute cave when I walked into it to a bright, airy, opened the space up. I mean, I don't know what else. It's just absolutely wonderful.
She's almost speechless. So, Darwin, tell me about all the man stuff. How did it work? The quality, the convenience, how did they do?
Excellent. We contacted 3-Day Bath, and they got back to us the next day. The communication was excellent. They were on time in all their promises, and it's beautiful. It's a great bathroom.
Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely.
For more about your new kitchen or bath, visit 3daykitchenutah.com.
3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See dealer for full details and disclaimers.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Worried about your battery and the heat? We get it. You don't want to get stranded somewhere with a car that feels like an oven. We've got you covered at AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Our free battery testing and charging service can help. And if you need a battery, we'll help you find a new one, no problem. Power through with free battery testing and charging at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
You are listening to Midday with Maria Chaleos. For those who are used to hearing inside sources at this time, we welcome you to this new show. Our goal is to report the news and tell stories of the people behind it. We will dig deeper, ask the important questions, and share the stories that connect us all. All of the Trump administration's talk about artificial food dyes in our food is creating concerns for many about the safety of the food we eat and how artificial additives may be impacting our health. Joining me now live from the USU Extension Service is Carrie Durward, who is a registered dietitian, nutritionist. Carrie, thank you so much for being with me.
Thanks so much.
First off, Carrie, give us your perspective on all of the talk of artificial additives.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of talk these days, and there's a lot of ingredients and additives that are in our food, and they're there for a reason. They're used to improve texture, appearance, increase the shelf life, or even the nutritional value. For example, I've heard some people talking about the vitamins and minerals that are added to our food, like iron in breakfast cereals or vitamin D in milks or orange juice. Many people think of these as additives, but the reality is that they're helping us to prevent nutrient deficiencies.
So how do we keep these things in perspective? Is there any real research that shows that these additives are harmful?
So one of the main concerns is around hyperactivity in food dyes, and unfortunately, the research is really inadequate. The findings that we do have are inconsistent. And so this makes it really difficult to give a simple answer to parents and consumers. But what I can say is foods highest in these dyes and additives are also typically high in sugar and low in nutrients. They are what I call sometimes foods. These are foods that we can enjoy occasionally, but they shouldn't make up a large part of our diets.
So describe what types of foods are problematic. We're talking candies.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we're talking about the really brightly colorful foods, things like candy, certain cereals, certain snacks, sugary drinks. Those are typically going to have more artificial dyes and additives.
Okay. So what should we know when we're buying snacks and things for our children?
Well, as a parent myself, I know that feeding kids is really hard. You know, there's the lack of time, the high cost of food, not to mention picky eaters. It all adds up. So my number one goal is to support parents, not overwhelm them. So the very most important thing that we can do as parents is to make sure that our kids are getting enough food to support their healthy growth. After that, we want to make sure they're getting enough vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And if you're in a place where you can focus on nutrition beyond the basics, a great goal to start with is to try to increase fiber for one of your kids. Pick one of our high fiber food groups, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds, or beans and lentils, and experiment to find things that your child enjoys. Healthier options can also include some of these processed foods. It's about the big picture, not perfection.
So what would you like us to think about when we're at the grocery store and we are looking at the food labels? What should we watch out for? What should be those warning signals?
Yeah, so my number one tip for grocery shopping is actually way before you get to the store, plan your meals ahead of time and shop with a list from that plan. That alone can make a huge difference to the nutrition that you have in your house, but also help to reduce the cost of food. And our USU Extension Nutrition website or your local extension office have great free resources to help with this. If you're looking at the nutrition facts label, one of the main things that I look at when I'm buying packaged food for my kids is fiber. And the more, the better, typically, though you don't want to jump from no fiber to lots of fiber too quickly. And it also has to be something that my kids will eat, because do you know how much fiber my kids will get from a food that they don't eat? 0 grams of fiber.
Yeah.
I also check for added sugars, and I try to choose lower sugar options when possible.
When shopping in the vegetable section, we know that often some of these prices can be high. Are the canned foods, are the frozen foods, are they still just as healthy as the fresh?
Oh, great question. Yeah. Oh, the price of avocados the other day. Yeah. So the frozen foods are often they can actually be more nutritious than fresh because they're frozen right in the field. They haven't been traveling at all. The canned foods, the canning process does decrease the amount of certain vitamins that are sensitive to heat, but they are still excellent sources of fiber and quite a few vitamins and minerals.
So anything else you would like folks to know that could help them improve their diet?
Yeah, so, it's great to take steps to ban ingredients that we think are bad for our health, but it's important to keep in mind that no single ingredient is going to determine your health. So we really want people to think more about their overall diet. And from a professional perspective, making sure that all families have access to affordable and healthy food.
Carrie, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
And that is Carrie Durward, Associate Professor of Nutrition, Dietetics, and Food Sciences at Utah State University. Again, thank you for being with us. Midday with Maria Chaleos continues with our question of the day in 60 seconds.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Capted Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
This is Midday. Is the discussion about fluoride in Utah's water distracting us from the issues of good health? In case you missed it, the ban on fluoride in Utah's drinking water goes into effect tomorrow. So we want to take a deeper dive into what you need to do now to ensure that your kids' teeth stay healthy. But ahead of that, we wanted to get your thoughts on keeping your kids healthy. This segment is dedicated each day to connect with you. We want to hear your comments and concerns, and we'll do that by posing a question of the day and then asking you to respond either on the KSL News Radio app or by phone. Now, it's really easy to respond on the app. You just open the app, and at the bottom of the homepage, you will see the call-in tab, and just click on that tab. Tell us your first name. If you don't want to give us your first name, tell us where you're coming from, and just then give us a quick response to the question. Then you can even review your answer on the app and re-record the message if you like. And each day at 1:35, we'll share some of your thoughts and hear from experts who can speak to them. Now, you can also call and leave us a message at 801-575-4606. So here we go. Here's the question of the day. What are your concerns about fluoride being taken out of Utah's drinking water? Or if you're happy about this change, tell us why. Again, leave us your first name, where you're calling from, and then your response on the KSL News Radio app. Tap the call-in tab or call and leave your message at 801-575-4606.
I think we're doing fine. I think you're just kind of going to more like survival mode of just making sure all the things are done.
The end of the school year is almost here. Parents, how are you holding up the struggles of this busy time of year coming up? But first, KSL Traffic, it's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Homegrown Home Loans. Ricky?
We are looking at a nice and quiet drive on your valley freeways and our main secondaries. However, in Wasatch County, we've had an accident near the Daniel Summit area. It's not going to affect a lot of people, but if you're going to be traveling Highway 40, watch for a crash eastbound blocking the right lanes of travel. Try UTA and get more done while you ride. Games, work, books, shows. You'll be too busy to notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Ricky Meeson, the KSL Traffic Center.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
When should you file for Social Security to get the most out of your benefits? Get the answer in a free report, your guide to filing for Social Security in 2025 and beyond. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. 801-251-1046. There's more to maximizing Social Security than filing for your benefits early or late. This free report details all of the different things you must consider that could help you get the most net income from Social Security. Wring every nickel out of your benefits that are rightfully yours. Get your free report now by calling 801-251-1046. That's 801-251-1046.
Boss Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the Social Security Administration.
Summer is right around the corner.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss. Today is a new day.
And a big day for you.
Why?
Why?
Because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Do you know how good it feels to let go of 51 pounds of belly fat? And I did it without drugs, shots, or hunger. Because Soda Weight Loss works. Just look at all the Google reviews and all the thousands of before and after pictures.
Soda Weight Loss has one goal, and that's to help you let go of the weight for good.
So I lost 25 pounds. I was never hungry. It was very, very easy. I couldn't believe how fast the weight came off.
Now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Hurry. Savings won't last long.
Let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, More than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Jeff Kaplan.
His Minute of News is great. It's always entertaining.
I listen to Jeff Kaplan every day. He gives you important news and traffic and the familiar voice that helps you enjoy the ride home.
I really like Jeff's Minute of News. He's calm and he's balanced.
I really enjoy driving home and just listening to what he's got to say.
Jeff Kaplan gets me home every day.
Join the community that relies on Jeff Kaplan. He has you covered. Afternoons from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
This is Midday with Maria Chaleos. Congratulations, parents. You made it to Maycember.
Hey, friends, welcome to Maycember. It's like all the craziness of December without all the fun cookies and twinkle lights.
That is a term gaining popularity online where parents say there are so many end-of-school activities combined with spring sports and events that it becomes busier and more stressful than the holidays. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson helped us go in-depth on this crazy time of year by talking with moms and educators to hear their perspectives and get their advice. Syracuse mother Mary Elizabeth Hickman says this time of year can be a wild ride.
I have 6 kids, and so we have 9 to 12 games per week. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. We have cheer tryouts. I have 3 kids going for SBO, so we have 3, applications that are due. Evening of Excellence, 9th grade dance, Lagoon Day, and then all of the end-of-year parties.
Okay, it's a lot. She says she does what she can to make her kids live as stress-free as possible.
I think we're doing fine. I think you're just kind of going to more like survival mode of just making sure all the things are done. I have a list that I do every week, and I just have all the things listed out of every day. And, sometimes as a mom or whatever, you're able to adjust it. If you don't get something done that day, it can move on to the next day. But I think when it comes to May, you just have the list, and it's like you legit just have to do everything every single day. And so there's not a lot of time to just wonder if you should move it to another day because you just do it. I don't know. You just get it done.
Aaron Barth is the principal at Viewmont Middle School in Lehigh, and he gets it.
It is absolutely a very busy time of year, but it's also a super fun time of year because we're just highlighting students nonstop, from banquets, award ceremonies, for all of these year-long things that they've been doing. We're celebrating them. Yes, we try to celebrate them little bits along the way, but this end of year is really a chance that we can celebrate a year of learning or a year of an activity or a year of growth, really.
Barth says he's talked with staff about trying to spread out all of the end-of-year events, but it's not always that simple.
So we've tried to push some of our concerts. Instead of doing everything in May, we did open up sort of that last week of April and try to expand it and stretch it out a little bit more. But like a band that's been going all year, they want to wait until the very end to showcase all that they've learned. Same with choir and orchestra. Everybody's always trying to wait and get in that last minute. And so it's hard to say, oh, this program, yes, you can wait till the end, but this program, you need to do it a little bit earlier. So it's tricky on our end.
As you might imagine, Principal Barth says, well, no one is afraid to voice their concerns. Coming up with the answers is another thing altogether.
People are definitely expressing their thoughts, just that it's just a busy time, but nobody has a good solution, because as we talk through the different logistics of moving an event, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. And so it's so tricky because we truly want to highlight our amazing students and the great things they're doing.
Plus, he says we can't forget all of the good things that come with end-of-year recognition.
There is so much good. Some students that just barely skate by, or some students that feel like they've fallen through the cracks and haven't been noticed. And then at this end of the year, to just see their name get called for an award or be recognized at a banquet, you just see a light in their eyes that's like, hey, I've been seen, I'm valued. And that is priceless. to see that in a student is just that's what we get into education for, is to watch that kid grow and light up.
And Principal Barth adds that moving some of the things to another time of year, it just wouldn't be the same.
I feel like if you would lose a little bit of the value in it if you did it at just some random time in the year, like, it just feels odd. And maybe that's just the tradition speaking, because traditionally it all happens at the end of the year. So that could be why it would just feel odd to me, is just the tradition.
So to get through the busy time, Mary Elizabeth Hickman, who is also a PTA president, has this advice for moms.
Okay, so first of all, breathe. Don't forget to breathe. And that might sound so silly, but it's true. Like, just take it one step at a time. For me, I like organization, and so lists work well for me, because if I forget something, then I look at my list and it reminds me, okay, well, this is the next thing you need to do. So I would encourage probably lists, as well as it will all work out in the end. So even if you feel super stressed because you have, 3 games that you've got to get to back, everything will still happen and it will work out okay. Just remember to take care of yourself and take care of, your children.
Okay, most of us can use that advice. Just breathe and take care of yourself and your children. The largest bagpipe band in Utah recently returning from the Las Vegas Celtic Festival and Highland Games. The Wasatch and District Pipe Band is a competitive bagpipe band based in Bountiful. The band members dress in traditional Scottish regalia, including red and blue McTavish tartans. Now, the group, made up of more than 100 members, just kicked off their season with their performance in Las Vegas. They have another performance coming up on June 1st at the Davis Arts Council's Free Sunday Concert Series. And a group of BYU students launched what they are calling the first hybrid motor rocket ever launched in the state. The motor uses solid and liquid fuels and reached 6,000 feet before parachuting back to Earth. They recently tested it out in the desert near Tooele. The 11-member capstone team built a 25-foot launch rail that can be taken apart and reassembled on site, a fluid system to the fuel rocket, and a trailer to transport and sustain the equipment during a launch. Now, the Rocketry Club plans to show off their creation at an upcoming competition in California. Andy Cupp, executive producer, joins me for a second. Pretty cool stuff.
Nothing like your bottle rockets as a kid. I mean, I can't imagine 6,000 feet. Yeah, that's what, more than a mile up in the air? Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Ideas for improving immigration, including a proposal from President Trump.
We're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from.
The time is 2 o'clock on Tuesday, May 6th. It's midday. I'm Maria Chaleos. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at immigration policies and proposals, including one that calls on the business community to help. Also this hour,
the backlog of appeals keeps growing, but as of now, there's not a system in place to consider them.
Tomorrow, the State Records Committee officially goes away, but the delays with government records already stacking up. But first, our top stories. Our top local story this hour. Today, the father of a West Haven boy who starved to death will learn how long he'll spend behind bars. Shane Peterson pled guilty to child abuse, homicide, and a slew of other charges in connection to his son Gavin Peterson's death. Prosecutors are asking for the maximum sentence possible based on the aggravating factors of the case. Based on the charges, he could serve less than a decade or up to life in prison. Public safety officers are gathering at Weber State Campus this week to learn how to use drones.
The Law Enforcement Drone Association is holding a training to teach police officers, search and rescue members, firefighters, and more how they can use drones in their work. LEDA Chief Marketing Officer Doug Syrup says drones can be used in search and rescue to deliver supplies, or small ones can be sent into buildings to give officers an idea of what they will be walking into. Syrup says they'll be practicing every afternoon this week, and on Thursday have a special nighttime training. You might notice up to 9 drones flying around the Weber State campus. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that the Pentagon can begin removing transgender troops from the ranks.
The case will continue playing out in the lower courts. For now, the justices have set aside an injunction that blocked the ban from taking effect. It means the Trump administration can begin discharging transgender service members. Advocates say more than 15,000 transgender troops are currently serving, and they say there's no evidence it's harmed the military's effectiveness. The administration argues it is owed substantial deference when it comes to how the armed services are run.
ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy. Meanwhile, President Trump is meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House today. Trump repeated his proposal for Canada to join the U.S., but Carney wasn't having any of that.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
Tensions have been high between Canada and the U.S. since the tariffs were announced, but the president says he hopes the two can find common ground. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow down by 271 points, sitting at 40,948 at the close. S&P 500 down by 24 points. The NASDAQ down by 0.5%, down by 89 points. Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Ricky, what's happening on the roads?
Nice and quiet on the Valley freeways and our main secondaries. But, Maria, we want to give Davis County drivers a big heads up. In Farmington, UDOT is going to permanently close the Shepherd Lane overpass in Farmington starting as early as tomorrow. That old bridge is going to be demolished in June, and they're going to send you down to east and westbound traffic to Shepherd Lane and be detoured from Shepherd Lane to be detoured to Burton Lane in Kaysville. So plan for that for the coming days. Ricky Meese, let me get this in first. First, another true David versus Goliath miracle movie from director T.C. Christensen. See Raising the Bar, the story of high jumper Alma Richards' journey from rural Utah to an Olympic gold medal in theaters now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Still a chance of a few showers across the Wasatch Front today. Today's high 64. Tomorrow up to 72. And the chance of showers disappears for the next few days. By Friday, up into the mid-80s and continuing in the mid-80s through Sunday. But it looks like a slight chance of showers returns on Saturday. Right now, 58 degrees from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Did you hear?
A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Thanks for tuning in to Midday with Maria Chaleos. For those who are used to hearing inside sources at this time, we welcome you to this new show. Our goal is to report the news and tell the stories of the people behind it. We plan to dig deeper, ask the important questions, and share the stories that connect us all. Immigration, a hot topic with a lot of different angles. This segment will dig into the heart of the story, touching on new policies and ideas on how businesses can get more involved in the immigration process. ABC's Christiane Cordero with more on an offer from the White House for immigrants here illegally to self-deport.
The Trump administration is offering cash and travel assistance to immigrants in the U.S. illegally if they sign up to self-deport.
We're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from.
Eligible immigrants will receive airline tickets to their home countries and $1,000, far less than the average $17,000 it costs the government to arrest, detain, and remove someone.
Immigration attorney Adam Craig speaking with David Dujanovic, sharing his advice to his clients, and he says it's not a realistic solution.
$1,000 in a plane ticket when you've just fled persecution. You've literally spent your entire life savings, which exceeds $1,000 to get across the Darien Gap, to go through all sorts of hellacious conditions to arrive in the United States. I would say no, because there's no guarantee you're going to get the money. And the key word here is self-deport. When you deport, you are castigated with a 10-year penalty, meaning you're going to have to file a waiver to even attempt to come back. So this whole notion about how this is such a great program and people will get the opportunity to come back legally, that is so smoke and mirrors that it's really fundamentally unfair to market this the way they're doing it.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem speaking to Fox News about the program.
Go on the CBP Home app, and we will facilitate them finding their way back to their countries. We will pay for their plane ticket. When they get there, we will verify they are who they said they are and that they are in fact back home, and then they will be paid $1,000 as an incentive to go there and to be able to help facilitate their housing or their clothing or their food for the period of time that they're back in their country until they can get themselves settled.
While the Trump administration works on deportation policy, immigration experts are offering their takes on how to change immigration in general. Laura Collins is one of those experts working at the George W. Bush Policy Institute in Texas. She explains to the Deseret News KSL editorial board her thoughts on how businesses and Congress can work together to fix the broken immigration system.
We're not just doing economics anymore. We also talk about humanitarian migration. We talk about the border. We talk about reasonable solutions for the undocumented. And that's because around 2021, with the release of President Bush's Book of Portraits, Out of Many One, we realized we had more to say. So if you were to fast forward to our 2025 policy recommendations, you'll see a lot of the things that we've advocated for in the past. That core remains. We still believe in having an immigration system that really benefits our economy and that is really looking to the future to make sure that we have the workers we need in this country. But we also could sense that there's been a bit of a shift in the way the United States has been thinking about refugee resettlement. We know that migration as a whole across the world is really, lots of people on the move, high levels of displacement. And so we sought to take a look at that, a fresh look, and say, how do we merge those foreign policy pieces? How are we interacting in Latin America with our allies? How are we interacting around the world? Making sure that the values that we hold dear and protecting people who are, leaving persecution or just seeking opportunity, that is still working, even if those people are not being resettled in the United States. So you'll see that in some of the recommendations as well about working with our allies to make sure refugees have a place to go that's safe and making sure that they are fully integrated where they're going to be. We still have that, again, the economic core. We talk about eliminating per country caps. One of the things that's really interesting about that is if you look at the population trajectories for the United States, you look at where we typically pull immigrants from, we don't pull very many from sub-Saharan Africa, and that is where all of the population growth in the world is going to be in the next couple of decades. So we really do need to build that immigration system to make sure we can capture the good talent from around the world and that we are competitive. And right now, we don't have an immigration system that fits that.
If sub-Saharan Africa is where we need to go for that population, how do we do that? How do we attract them?
So I think the bigger question is, we talk a lot about this in terms of fertility, right? And where are we going to get the workers? Some of this is also going to be a bit about productivity shifts, something that my policy recommendations don't really go into. But if you're talking about making sure we have enough productivity in the economy, some of this is going to be trade-offs, right? Immigration's one piece of it. You might end up automating some jobs. Obviously, there are some jobs that simply cannot be done without people. And so this immigration piece and where we're getting folks from is really important. Sub-Saharan Africa, because of the nature of the immigration system we have, more people come into this country via family ties than via, employment. Because we traditionally don't bring in a lot of folks from sub-Saharan Africa, that chain of migration, there's fewer people to sponsor them. If you were to switch to more of an employment base, not only would that open up more opportunities for folks from places that don't necessarily have family members coming here, but you would also then, make sure you're getting people with the right skills and opportunity. It would require a little bit of a shift on the employer's part to really go and recruit where those workers are. Obviously, if we're not traditionally recruiting in sub-Saharan Africa, they would have to make a change too. That's not necessarily a U.S. policy issue so much as a private issue. But it's also those per country caps, right? Like we know that we could have more immigrants from India right now, today, if we didn't have that 7% cap on green cards. We know that a lot of the H-1B workers who were already here would be able to become green card holders and eventual citizens if we didn't have that cap in place. And so it really does restrict our ability to be competitive. We know Canada, for example, has tried to attract some of the high-skilled workers in the United States that are stuck in H-1B backlogs trying to get green cards. So we know that there are other developing economies doing the same thing. We're not all going to be able to get all the workers we need. The U.S. government, though, particularly Congress, really needs to figure out how to build that system so we are competitive, even if there's going to be a dwindling supply of workers worldwide.
Collins says immigration reform really should be taken care of by Congress because it will be lasting and will be more popular with the country. Stay with us. We'll be back with more in just 60 seconds with a preview of the Catholic Conclave, which officially begins tomorrow.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. What is the number one reason people buy a hot tub and then don't use it? The maintenance. Arctic Spas is relentless in making maintenance easy with our automatic saltwater system. We call it Spa Boy because it's like having someone else take care of your spa for you all the time. It uses salt water, which is the more natural way of treating water, making the water more comfortable. You get no smell, no red eyes or dry skin, just pure enjoyment. It's automatic because it has a sensor that reads the water and then automatically adjusts the sanitizer and the pH. You don't have to test and adjust the water yourself. You can even monitor everything from your Arctic Spa app on your phone. Now, get all the relaxing advantages of a hot tub without the not-so-relaxing maintenance. So for the most comfortable and convenient spa out there, check out Arctic Spas with stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George, or online at arcticspasutah.com. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
This is Midday. Tomorrow, Catholic cardinals will officially begin conclave, all to select a new pope. ABC's Brad Milkey speaks with Father Tom Maurice, who's in Rome, with more on how conclave came to be.
One of the reasons a conclave is so fascinating are the stakes. This is about to be the person, a pope, who will be seen by 1 billion Catholics as really God's most direct representative on earth.
Before creating the world,
Dios amaba.
God loved.
Another reason is just how old the process is. There are very few elections in the world that have run continuously like this for centuries. But perhaps the most tantalizing thing of all is the secrecy. These 130-something men locked in a room together deciding the fate of the church. And yet, while the votes themselves are secret, the idea that the process itself is secret is kind of an illusion. There are actually very codified rules here. So, as we start scanning the Vatican rooftops tomorrow for white smoke, let's hear exactly how this will play out from someone who knows all about it. Father Tom Reese is a Jesuit priest. He's a senior analyst at Religion News Service, and he's in Rome right now. Father, I know you've been studying up on the protocols, so I want to hear how this will work, but really I also want to hear, why is this so elaborate? Is it just about reverence and mystery and camp? What's the rationale here?
Well, there's a lot of rationale before it. I guess what I should say is there's a lot of history behind all this.
Mm-hmm.
The whole practice of locking the cardinals in to make sure that the election happens started in Viterbo, a small town in Italy where the cardinals were meeting to elect a pope. Well, they went over a year before they elect anybody, and the people of Viterbo got tired of feeding them and housing them. So what they did is they locked them in a room and said, we're not letting you out until you elect a pope. And when that didn't work, they put them on bread and water. And when that didn't work, they tore the roof off the building they were in so that the weather was raining down on them. That was the origin of the conclave, of the locking them in, because they wanted them to get the job done and get out of town. Now, later on, it became a way of protecting the papacy and the electors from interference from secular governments. You know, kings, emperors, they all wanted to influence who would be elected. And so they thought that if they locked them away and kept everything secret so nobody knew how each person was voting, that would make the church, the cardinal electors, more independent. Today, I think it's to keep the press away.
Right. That makes sense.
That was ABC's Brad Milkey and Father Tom Reese on the ABC Start Here podcast. Tomorrow, we'll discuss more on the whole process of the conclave. Proposed federal grant cuts could affect all sorts of medical research, including research on traumatic brain injuries. Our in-depth discussion on how the research is helping kids and teens next. But first, KSL Traffic. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style Homegrown Home Loans. Ricky?
We already have traffic getting a little busy southbound I-15 near 7200 south at that merge, and also some heavy and slower traffic moving northbound I-15 in Utah County through Linden. Water belongs in pipes, not in your yard or on your floor. Call Utah Utility Pro, your leak detection and repair specialist. Water, sewer, main, and gas lines. Utah Utility Pro, utahutilitypro.com. Ricky Meeson, the KSL Traffic Center.
Have a minute?
I love Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News.
It's more of a personal take on the news from Jeff.
Get caught up on the latest news and hear Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News for thought-provoking, playful commentary.
It's usually funny.
Like he's said before, it varies from day to day, and it's always entertaining.
My Minute of News, it puts a smile on my face.
If you have a minute, you need to catch Jeff's Minute. My Minute of News, weekdays from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade Event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New Trade Event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See with the full details and disclaimers.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Worried about your battery and the heat? We get it. You don't want to get stranded somewhere with a car that feels like an oven. We've got you covered at AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Our free battery testing and charging service can help. And if you need a battery, we'll help you find a new one, no problem. Power through with free battery testing and charging at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So, how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Capted Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
You are listening to Midday with Maria Chaleos. Federal funding for traumatic brain injury research could be cut if Congress follows through with the Trump administration's budget request. It's an important issue that's been in the news in recent years, largely because of sports, really with Major League Football players. But TBIs, as they are called, aren't unique to adults. They can also affect children and teens. And the potential funding cuts are worrying some of those who work with TBIs. Lisa Walker is a licensed athletic trainer at Springville High School and has experience working with people who have traumatic brain injuries. Lisa, thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, you're sure welcome. Thanks for calling.
Describe for us, first of all, how significant is the TBI issue in Utah?
So let's start with what TBI is, right? So traumatic brain injury, or TBI, that's a broad term. That refers to any of the injuries that affect the brain's function. Primarily, when we start talking about children, we talk more specifically in terms of concussion, right, which is one type of TBI. So maybe parents that are listening might want to understand that much of what we're talking about here is the concussion-based injury.
So what type of research is being done right now, and how would the cuts impact that funding?
So there's continual research being done on many levels when it comes to concussion. As far as athletic trainers go, we always are on the front lines of research. Does the federal funding affect the research that we do? That's a question I could give an opinion on, but I don't have any absolute facts on that. I would assume that it's going to affect us somehow, some way. I do know that much of the research that's done in terms of TBI is done on those that are in the military. Now, whether or not we are involved with that, because we're employed in all branches of the military and deal with the soldiers and the TBIs and recognizing them and then getting things out, whether or not that is going to play a role, or whether those who sit on the international conference every 3 years, they have a big international conference and they update everything that they know. So do they read the research that comes out of it, or are these dollars directly tied to it? Again, that I'm not sure of, but I am certain that there is a connection, somehow, some way. And we all know that concussions are huge in athletics. I mean, on my campus alone, and I'm not unique that my kids sustain concussions, but the other types of TBI as well, whether we're talking about the elderly or we're talking about soldiers or what have you. So it's not unique to athletes. I deal with kids on my campus that are not athletes that sustain concussion from other things. Maybe it's just a car wreck. So we're looking at it's going to affect a very large part of the population.
Let's talk about the education piece of this puzzle. What role has education played in preventing brain injuries, and how would this lack of funding for education, in your opinion, maybe lead to more injuries?
So, I've been an athletic trainer for a long time, and we have made so many strides in recognition of concussion and how we handle them. How we handled them once upon a time, even when I began, and how we handle them today, very different. Again, these international conferences play a role in changing how we handle them. That's an educational piece. Where we had kids, parents, coaches that whether directly or indirectly had the kids not fess up to what they were going through because they thought no big deal. My experience is the amount of education that we've given them now, they come forward. Coming forward prevents further injury. With our children, the big bad one that we refer to as something called second impact syndrome. Where does a lot of the education come from? Well, it comes from the athletic trainer. Not every campus has an athletic trainer. I am fortunate in that, for instance, these cuts potentially, again, because we don't really know what they are, right? They say they're going to do the cuts, and then they come back with clarifications. But it appears that they're talking in part about the CDC Heads Up program. Our Utah High School Activities Association, under concussion, we have 4 links to the CDC, to that Heads Up, to educate parents, to educate coaches, to educate kids. So those 4 links will disappear, and we'll need to come up with something to fill the spot, to fill that void. Well, National Athletic Trainers Association has information, right? We've got the research, we've got the information. We'll have to come together and make that happen. But what about the places that don't have an athletic trainer, that don't know about the National Athletic Trainers Association, that think that athletics and concussions that happen elsewhere are different or should be treated different? So the educational piece going away can be detrimental. Some of this stuff, just back to the basic military thing, are we looking at generational problems because of the changes that they make, the cuts that they make, the lack of education, the lack of recognition, the lack of care? I mean, the Army alone is looking at the possibility of cutting the athletic trainer out because why? And they don't recognize the unique, subset of skills and qualifications. So I think the whole thing is a big, giant, jumbled mess that we don't really know yet. I know that there is a Brain Injury Action Coalition meeting that's not scheduled until the 12th, where they're going to discuss some of the different impacts that might occur should these funding cuts happen. So, I mean, it's all yet to be determined, but it doesn't look good no matter what. It doesn't look good, and there's certainly a cause of great concern because you get one brain, you better recognize when it has a problem. We need the research, we need the funding, we need to figure it out, and we need to treat them appropriately. And it doesn't matter what age we're talking about, but especially with our children.
Lisa, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Lisa Walker is a licensed athletic trainer at Springville High School in Utah County, and just so glad that she could join us with her advice today. It's 2:30, midday at KSL News Radio. Hello, I'm Maria Shaleo. Some of the stories we are watching this hour, delays to appeal access to government records already stacking up. And one Utah rug shop owner taking his humanitarian efforts to Nepal. First, a look at ABC News.
I'm Michelle Franzen. President Trump met with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House today. That meeting comes on the heels of Carney winning his election while pushing back on the president's tariff policies and his insistence that Canada should be the 51st state. ABC's Karen Travers says even though both Trump and Carney sounded cordial, sticking points remain on trade.
In terms of actually bringing down the tariffs right now that the United States has put on Canadian products. The president said he's not budging on that there is not something that's going to make him change his mind at this point. And so I think in terms of trying to reach some sort of agreement right now, that is still a ways off.
At the Vatican, last-minute preparations underway ahead of tomorrow's conclave, cardinals sequestering when they vote for the new pope. Severe storms on the march across the South and Gulf Coast states today, and in Texas. Police confirm the body of a 10-year-old girl swept away in Texas floods has been recovered. This is ABC News.
KSL's top local story. A police officer in southern Utah was booked in jail, accused of being the aggressor in a family fight and pulling out his gun.
The probable cause statement says Britt Ballard threatened his wife, a son-in-law, and other adults in the house in Hurricane late Sunday night, and this happened with 6 kids inside. The documents also say the adults, they were intoxicated, and they actually held Ballard down after he threatened to shoot them while pointing his gun at the ceiling. The St. George News reports Ballard has been working as an officer for Springdale since 2008. He's currently on paid administrative leave. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
If you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is help available. You can call the 24/7 Utah Domestic Violence Link line at 1-800-897-LINK or 5465. Police have arrested a man who's accused of causing 2 wrong-way crashes on the same day. Utah Highway Patrol was called out after the first crash happened. Then they say by the time they found the alleged wrong-way driver, troopers say he got on the freeway the wrong way a second time. Troopers arrested the 42-year-old man on suspicion of driving the wrong way while under the influence of alcohol. The Trump administration is working to cut funding for traumatic brain injury research. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson tells us what we could see as far as impacts in Utah.
Certified brain injury specialist with the state of Utah, Catherine Little, says 2/3 of their funding comes from the federal level.
If the federal funding disappears, I'm not sure how the state of Utah will be able to absorb all of those costs.
That funding helps provide resources for people who have traumatic brain injuries, but it also helps fund prevention efforts like the Heads Up program. Here in Utah, most athletic coaches are required to participate in that program to be better educated on how to deal with their players' head injuries and hopefully prevent them. Little says cutting this funding would be troubling and extremely short-sighted. Britt Johnson, KSL News Radio.
Other local stories KSL is following. Utah was ranked the best state overall for the 3rd year in a row. U.S. News and World Report considers economic growth, education, infrastructure, and quality of life in its ranking. State leaders like Senate President Stuart Adams say this is a challenge to keep raising the bar. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow closed down by almost 271 points, sitting at 40,948. S&P was down by 24. The NASDAQ, it was down by 89 points. Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's Homegrown Home Loans. Anything happening on the roads, Ricky?
We have had a little bit of busy traffic southbound I-15, Murray and Midvale, but overall, Valley Freeway traffic, no accidents and no significant delays. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're supposed to hit a high of 64 degrees, still a 40% chance of showers lingering this afternoon. Tomorrow, though, warmer, 72, then climbing up to the mid to upper 80s by the weekend, and no chance of rain for the next few days. Right now, 58 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
It all started with a commitment to comfort. Gillette Heating and Air is proud to be Utah County's go-to team for expert HVAC and plumbing solutions. Need a repair, upgrade, or seasonal tune-up? Don't let cost hold you back. With 0% financing available, it's easy to get the work done now and pay later. Plus, save $100 on any repair over $500 and keep your system running strong with a professional tune-up before the heat hits. Visit GilletteHVAC.com or call 385-GET-COOL to book today. Homegrown service pros, financing made simple, comfort made easy.
It's springtime in the Rockies, and it's time to apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. Take advantage of spring storms with an application of Revive now. Protect yourself from drought later this summer and skyrocketing water costs. With Revive, if you water 2 times a week, it's like watering 4. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k.
If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
You were listening to Midday with Maria Chaleos. For those of you who are used to hearing inside sources at this time, we welcome you to this new show. Our goal is to report the news and tell the stories of the people behind it. We will dig deeper, ask the important questions, and share the stories that connect us all. Utah's State Records Committee isn't officially dissolved yet. That happens tomorrow. But they've already held their last meeting, and the delays for Utah seeking appeals is already growing. Senate Bill 277, sponsored by State Senator Mike McKell, passed the state legislature and was signed into law by Governor Cox. It gets rid of the State Records Committee, replacing it with a single judge appointed by the governor. Senator McKell speaking with inside sources about his bill, how his bill, which goes into effect tomorrow, changes that process.
So we had a hearing. What I do in the bill is very simple. We use a director, which would be an attorney. I liken it to an administrative law judge to take these requests. Currently, we have a 7-member committee, and those are not – we appreciate the 7-member committee. They're volunteers, but we ask them to do very legal things. For example, we give them authority to issue subpoenas, compel testimony and evidence, to impose fines and penalties, and make legally binding decisions. And I think that's a big part of why there's been backlog. That's a very difficult task. And what this bill does is it says, is there a better way? And what I think is having a records director, somebody with legal training, can move that process forward, speed up the process.
KSL investigator Daniela Rivera has been following the developments with government records closely over the past several years. She joins us now live to talk about the latest developments and the changes. Thanks so much for being with us.
Happy to be here.
So let's start with Senator McKell's bill to remind listeners about it. I mean, we just heard what he said earlier this year. What is your take on it as someone, often requesting public records?
Yeah, certainly. So the State Records Committee, as you heard, it's a 7-member panel that considers appeals when the government is not wanting to give a record to a requester, a citizen, sometimes a journalist. Senator McKell's bill abolishes that committee, which had several stakeholders represented. There was a media representative on the panel. There was a citizen representative on the panel. That goes away, and under SB 277, that panel is replaced with a single administrative law judge appointed by Governor Spencer Cox. So it will be a new process. Senator McKell has said that a key factor in this is efficiency. The Records Committee did have a backlog. He believes this new process will be much more efficient. However, there's not a lot of public support for it. Everything we saw in legislative hearings, public testimony, hundreds of emails that we were able to get that citizens sent to the lawmakers considering this, we heard from Utahns saying they liked the State Records Committee. There wasn't much support for this new process, and we're now in a transition period.
Now, your story on KSL TV said that appeal delays are already stacking up. But before we get to that, can you just describe the process as it used to be?
Certainly. So I've used it quite a bit as a journalist. When you request records you believe are public from a government entity and they say, no, you can't have it, you have an opportunity to appeal. And if a higher up person still says, no, you can't have it, you then have two options. You can go through the court system and sue to try to get the records, which is costly and not very accessible to most Utahns, or you can send an appeal to the State Records Committee and ask them to hear your case, and then you can go before them. You can bring an attorney with you, but you can also go just as a citizen and make the case for why you believe the record should be turned over. This process is unique to me and all the states I've reported in. We hadn't had something like this. And I think what people really loved about it was the accessibility. There were citizens on the board considering your appeals, and any citizen could go before them and make the case for why they felt a record should be released.
So why are there delays now?
You know, the State Records Committee has seen a huge increase in the number of appeals that they're getting over time. The backlog sits at just over 80 appeals waiting to be resolved. And so we also had a period last year, a couple months, where the committee was unable to meet, and that's because the governor had submitted multiple names of people who had served on the committee, reappointed them for another term, and lawmakers rejected those appointments. So in the time that it took to find new appointments and get those installed, there was a period of time, a couple months, where the committee didn't have a quorum and could not meet. So in that, those couple months, appeals continued to stack up. Once they got back together and were able to meet, they were meeting twice a month, trying to work through the appeals. Of course, they made some progress on that backlog, but there remains a backlog. And we're talking cases from 2024 that were appealed, cases this year. I think the oldest one was one case from 2023. So there are people who've been waiting a long time to make their case for why they feel like they should be able to access a government record.
So did Senator McKell's bill account for this 1 month kind of dead zone between the committee finishing up and the bill going into effect?
It did not, because when we reached out to start asking, what does the transition look like, we learned that the State Records Committee's final meeting was in April. And this new person who will be appointed will not be installed until January at the earliest. When I reported this story last week, the job had not even been posted online yet. And I was told the funding for this position does not exist until the start of the next fiscal year, July 1st. So then the question becomes, why isn't the State Records Committee going to keep meeting until this new process is in place so that we can keep moving through the backlog? I was told that the bill effectively, repeals their jurisdiction, repeals their power on May 7th, tomorrow, when it takes effect. And so we did reach out to Senator McKell because we wanted to know why the bill did not account for this transition and did not set up some sort of process to keep appeals moving while they switched over. He did not choose to participate in an interview with us for this report.
We're going to take a quick 1-minute break, and when we return, more on public records access with KSL TV's Daniela Rivera. Stay with us.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Wednesday on KSL, grocery delivery apps. We use them for convenience, knowing there are fees.
But the KSL investigators found a sneaky surcharge that they are not telling you about. Wait until you see how much it's adding to your bill.
3 delivery apps. It does not give me this option. 2 investigators.
25%, that's nothing to laugh at.
1 story you won't want to miss. Cost of convenience, sneaky app surcharge. Wednesday at 10 on KSL.
Welcome back. We are continuing a look at changes to public records requests and appeals thanks to a bill from the last legislative session that goes into effect tomorrow. Joining us for this discussion is Daniela Rivera, KSL investigator who's often knee-deep in government records. Now, before the break, Daniela, we chatted about the changes to the government records process. Now, I know you prefer the term public records. Why?
Well, I think that we go into this requesting something that we think we should be able to see, right? As journalists, we are kind of proxy to the public. So we we request records we believe include information the public has a right to. And so, when you think about the work of our government, they're doing the people's work. And so a good bit of those records should be something that the public gets to see. It's public tax dollars that pay for this work, that pay for these records to be created. And it's these records that help the public be informed on exactly how their government is working.
So as a journalist, how do you see your role in the fight for government transparency and public access?
Well, I think it's important that we are the ones a lot of the time requesting these records. When you think about our transparency laws, I'm thinking open meetings, public records. The concept is that any person in the public should be able to walk into a public meeting and listen, and any member of the public should be able to request a public record and look at it. But the reality is, the average citizen doesn't have time to watch every public meeting in the state of Utah. They don't have time to look at every public record. And so a lot of that work is what we do on the public's behalf. We're going to go to the public meetings and report what happened, what's going to affect you from that meeting. And we're going to request and look through public records and let the citizens know if that's something that, they should know or what's going on with government. So all of the work that we're doing is, obviously we're very curious people. That's how we get into this line of work. But the work we do in requesting public records and reporting on them, it's for members of the public who have a right to know what is in those records.
You are an investigative reporter. How do you see all these process changes affecting your investigative reporting duties?
Well, I can tell you right now, there are records appeals that our newsroom has sitting that are going to sit for months in this transition, while more appeals, pile up. So it's not great from an efficiency standpoint, which, it's interesting. The key factor for moving this bill forward, we were hearing, was efficiency. It's all about efficiency. And so at the outset, it's not as efficient as we have this at least 2-month break while appeals are not being heard. But, I ultimately have to remain hopeful that things will get moving again and that this will ultimately be a good process for Utahns. I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, the government will work through this backlog, that appeals will be decided in the best interest of the public. And some of those appeals are appeals that our newsroom journalists have submitted. So I remain hopeful. And I think I'm learning with a lot of folks that we're going to learn how to navigate this new process.
All right. Thank you so much for being with me.
Sure thing.
That is KSL investigator Daniela Rivera. When we return, we'll hear from one Utahn who's taking his humanitarian efforts to the Himalayan mountains. But first, traffic and weather. It's brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle Homegrown Home Loans. Ricky?
A stalled vehicle has been loaded on the tow truck, and it's just pulled away, opening up that center lane again westbound on the 21st South Freeway exit ramp at Bangerter Highway. Traffic is moving through the area once again. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Hit it. It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious? Yeah! Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Hey there, I'm Jack.
And I'm Stag.
We're just two deer that want to make sure you know it's deer season at your authorized John Deere dealer. The deer season that saves bucks, like us.
Yeah, you can get $3,000 off select John Deere machines. No early wake-up calls or tree stands required.
Just a trip to your authorized dealer before June 2nd.
If you ask us, it's the only deer season worth celebrating.
Visit johndeere.com/deer season to find an authorized dealer and for complete finance details.
Get ready for Camping World's Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th. Get the highest value for your RV guaranteed during the biggest RV trade event of the year. Shop the best RV deals in America with new RVs starting as low as $92 a month. Get ready for the holiday weekend with up to 45% off grills and 25% off product installation. Plus, we'll have free hats, free propane refills, free food, and fun for the whole family. Don't miss the incredible Red, White, and New Trade event, May 15th through the 18th at your local Camping World.
See team for full details and disclaimer.
This is Midday. Utahns are well known for their humanitarian efforts and charitable giving. Today we want to tell you about a Utah nonprofit that is making a difference in Nepal. Jim Weber is the owner of Foothill Oriental Rugs.
In the 90s, I opened a wholesale company called Tibet Rug Company. We design and manufacture Tibetan carpets in Kathmandu, Nepal. They're woven by Tibetan refugees. But over the years working at that factory, Nepal became my spiritual home, and I wanted to give something back to that country. So I ended up getting hooked up with a surgeon over there who's just an amazing person, a humanitarian plastic surgeon, and he didn't have a clinic to work out of, and his specialty was cleft lips and palates. And so I decided we were going to support him, and I mobilized as much support as I could from the rug industry here in the States, and I didn't get much, but I got some, and then over the years I've just taken it over, and we totally run it out of my rug store in Salt Lake City.
So what is the need, first of all? What is the need for this service there?
Before we opened the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center in 2014, the country of Nepal depended on teams from organizations like Operation Smile or Doctors Without Borders to come in and do a week or a 2-week camp once a year for cleft lip and palate procedures. And they're great organizations, but it didn't begin to meet the need. And then they're not there for follow-up procedures that are needed, including speech therapy. So Nepal was in dire need of a teaching hospital to teach Nepali surgeons to do these procedures. And that's what we set out to do. And I started the organization in 2002. We started collecting money in 2006. We broke ground on the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center in Kathmandu in 2009. And we opened our doors in 2014.
Do you have any idea how many people you've served?
Thousands. Dr. Ryan and his team has done over 20,000 cleft lip and or palate procedures over the past 20 years. A lot of those have been done on the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center. But what we really didn't understand until we opened up the hospital was the scope of the burn issue in Nepal. It's a huge issue in third world countries. Reason being, more than 50% of the population of Nepal, and it's not a small population, it has 30 million people. As many people almost as Canada, squeezed into the small geographical area. And almost half that population cooks over open fires. And in general, most of them are illiterate. So that's a bad and in general, most of them produce a lot of kids. So in general, those are bad combinations. And the fires are literally on a dirt floor. They usually don't even build a fire ring around them in their huts. And that's where they do all their cooking. And with kids running around, it's just a bad combination. So fires are a huge issue in Nepal and in countries with similar demographics.
Mm-hmm. And how about cleft lip? Is it also an issue there?
It's a big issue, and the medical community doesn't really understand why, but they measure the problem by the amount of incidences per 100,000 births. And some countries have a lot of incidences. One of them is Nepal. India has a lot. Peru, Vietnam. And in general, the countries are all third world countries, and they don't know exactly the cause, but my best theory is that it's nutritional issues when the child is in the womb and it fails to develop correctly. But out in the villages where it happens, kids aren't treated compassionately who grow up with a cleft lip. People believe that their mother conceived during a full moon or that the child is possessed by demons or something, and they don't have a chance for a normal life.
So, describe how this is changing their life.
We can do a typical cleft lip procedure for about $300. And a cleft lip doesn't just impact a child's life, it totally changes their life. It gives them a chance for a normal life and the chance to grow up and have a normal job, to get married and have their own family. It just totally changes their life.
Yeah, I bet burns are the same way.
With cleft lip and palate surgeries, we really change people's lives. It's primarily children. With burns, we not only change people's lives, we save people's lives. The Nepal Cleft and Burn Center, since opening in 2014, has become the center of excellence for burn treatment in a country of 30 million people. And it's kind of ironic that an institution, which the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center was originally built to serve the poor, has become the center of excellence for burn treatment. It would never happen in an industrialized country. It just happened because of the unique demographics and political situation of Nepal. But the government last year designated us as the National Burn Center. It's amazing what we've done out of this little rug store in Salt Lake City and how it's impacting the medical infrastructure of this country halfway around the world.
Do you get a chance to go and meet with some of the people whose lives you've changed?
Oh, absolutely. Every time I'm in Nepal, and I usually go every year. I haven't been for a couple of years, but for 20 years I went every year. And I never go there without spending time at the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center with our team and discussing what we can do to support them for their next move. Like, for instance, right now, our burn ward in Kathmandu cannot meet demand, so we're expanding our burn ward. And the second thing we're doing is we broke ground on a second Nepal Cleft and Burn Center in southeastern Nepal, down by the Indian border, it's kind of the more industrialized area of Nepal. The second Nepal Cleft and Burn Center will meet the same needs as the Kathmandu facility currently does. It'll really change the medical infrastructure of that region. Specifically in this region called Terai, they have no hospitals. They have some very simple rudimentary clinics. And we're going to build by Nepali standards, a sophisticated hospital.
So how do you do that? I mean, how do you raise money? I mean, are you mainly doing it through fundraisers and raising money?
We mainly do it through our fundraiser, and we get some corporate support. The new hospital we're building in Itahari, our team in Nepal is on the ground working to get the government to support us. And actually, when we broke ground on the Kathmandu hospital in 2009 and started bringing it up out of the ground, the government recognized what we were going to do for the medical infrastructure of the country, and they stepped in and supported us financially to build that hospital. So it's kind of like Field of Dreams. Build it, and they will come. And we're going to bring this new hospital up out of the ground, hopefully this year. And I'm really confident once the government sees what it's going to do to the southeast area of Nepal, that they will step in and support us. Because, frankly, we can't do the whole thing by ourselves.
And you hold an annual fundraiser every year. It's a big deal. Tell us about that.
Well, our fundraiser over the years has grown. It started out in my rug store, and it was really a fun, funky event. And over the years, our support base has grown, and our fundraiser's grown with it. And last year, we did the fundraiser in the Museum of Natural History at the university. People loved it so much, and it worked out so well for us logistically, we're going to do it there again this year. Go on our website, nepalcleftandburncenter.org, and you can register on our website.
All right. Anything you'd like to add that I haven't thought to ask you?
This fundraiser is our primary means of raising income every year. And without it, our little nonprofit kind of loses momentum. And I've learned since starting this 23 years ago that we need to keep pushing it forward. I will say one thing that really sticks with me about our little nonprofit is I run it and I draw no salary, and we run it out of my rug shop and we pay no rent. And 95% of the money we collect goes to the project. And you never hear a number like that.
Kind of describe, before I let you go, what this really means to you.
It's become my project of passion over the past 20 years. Somehow I ended up a white guy from Utah in the rug business, somehow in the middle of the business community in Kathmandu, Nepal, and I was able to leverage that into something meaningful. So I feel really lucky and blessed to be able to do this. And we really are impacting the medical infrastructure of an entire country.
You can find out more about the Nepal Cleft and Burn Center and register for the May 16th fundraiser at nepalcleftandburncenter.org. Thank you so much for joining me today for Midday.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. It's 60 degrees in Salt Lake City. KSL's top story. A late-night police visit to an Orem home ended in gunfire last night, and a suspect is dead. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera is live in Orem with the latest. Eric?
Jeff, I checked with the Utah County Sheriff's Office about
who the suspect was and what led to the shooting, but so far, they're not sharing those details. It all went down just before midnight here in the neighborhood on 800 East and 400 North. Officers were serving a search warrant when shots were fired. They started life-saving efforts right away and called in Orem EMS, but the suspect died at the scene. No officers were hurt. I also spoke with Christopher Ballard from the Utah County Attorney's Office. He says they do track these cases, but it could be a while before the task force finishes its report.
Usually it takes several weeks for that investigation to be thorough and complete.
We'll keep following this and bring you